Good morning to Dr. Azrai and my fellow friends. My name is Anseling from 6th PISMP Science 1. Today, I will present the proposal with the titles Relationship between level of learning motivation and level of burnout among science teacher trainee in IPG Kampus Pendidikan Teknik. Generally, there are 3 chapters in this proposal. Chapter 1 is Introduction, Chapter 2 is Literature Review, and Chapter 3 is Methodology. First of all, let's look about background of this study. Motivation is a complicated aspect of human physiology and behavior that impacts how people choose to spend their time, how much energy they put into a task, how they think and feel about the world, and how long they stand on track with it, from Randy 2014. Learning motivation is often defined as intrinsic, where students are motivated by the course material, or extrinsic, where students are motivated by a course grade or credit. On the other hand, burnout is the word created by an American psychologist Herbert in the 1917 to describe the consequences of severe stress from Samra 2018. According to Jacodic B. and Sabo E. 2022, student burnout is a serious problem in higher education because it can lead to harmful effects such as decreasing in engagement, performance, and motivation, which can lead to dropout. In terms of statement of the problem, based on a study conducted by Ubin and others 2015, the findings shows that students studying with intrinsic motivation such as curiosity, interest, and personal satisfaction did not experience burnout, while students studying with external reasons such as praise of teachers, blame of parents will experience burnout. On the other hand, the issue of burnout is consequences of burnout among students that include declines in academic performance, increased mistake, diffusion interaction between classmates, and depression, and lastly, suicide, from Christine 2019. Because the finding of the research state that students learn with diverse motivation will bring different levels of burnout, and burnout brings many negative effects. So, I want to carry out a study to find the relationship between the level of motivation and level of burnout among teacher trainees in IPG Kampus Pendidikan Teknik. Next, the purpose of this study is to determine the relationship between level of learning motivation and level of burnout among students in IPG Kampus Pendidikan Teknik. Move to another main point, which is the objective and question for this research. In terms of question for this research, the first question is, what is the level of learning motivation among science teacher trainee in IPG KPT? Which means the objective for this research is to identify the motivation level of science teacher trainee in IPG KPT. The second question is, what is the level of burnout among science teacher trainee in IPG KPT? Means that this research will identify the level of burnout among science teacher trainee in IPG KPT. And the last question is there the relationship between the level of learning motivation and level of burnout among students option science in IPG KPT? That means the third objective for this research is to identify the relationship between level of learning motivation and level of burnout among science teacher trainee in IPG-KPT. In carrying out this study and based on some previous studies, the assumptions related to this problem statement are as follows, where null hypothesis 1 is to answer the third research question. Therefore, the null hypothesis for this research is there is no significant relationship between level of learning motivation and level of burnout among science students in IPG-KPT. Now, let's move on the scope and limitation of this study. The scope for this study is students from IPG-KPT, and the information collected is limited to the items in the question A. While the limitation for this study is the respondent is science teacher trainee from intake 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022 only. The next point is the significance of the study. First of all, this study is important to the teachers trainees themselves because the finding can help teachers trainees to identify their learning motivation and how the motivation affecting the feeling of burnout. Indirectly, they will realize the importance of increasing learning motivation. Moreover, this study will also help lecturers in IPG to identify learning motivation and burnout among teachers trainees. Thus, they can help to increase learning motivation among teachers trainees. For example, counseling service should be given to students to rebuild and get out from burnout. Last but not least, certainly, this study is important to IPG administrator because this study can raise awareness among IPG administrator on the issue of teachers training burnout. Therefore, it is hoped that IPG administrator will consider from the point of view of the teacher trainee before doing any decision so that it does not add to the burden on the teacher's training. Move to another main point of this proposal, which is operational definition. First of all, teacher trainee is students who are undergoing teaching training at institutes of higher education in Malaysia, such as Institute Pendidikan Guru. In this study, teachers trainee refers to student intake 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022 from option science. Secondly, IPG refers to institutions of higher learning that train prospective primary and secondary school teachers. In this study, IPG refers to Institute Pendidikan Guru Kampus Pendidikan Teknik located in Banda Estate Negeri Sembilan, Laru Khusus. Moreover, learning motivation is often defined as intrinsic, where students are motivated by the course material, or extrinsic, where students are motivated by a course grade or credit. In this study, learning motivation is referred to teachers' training efforts, attitudes, and inner desire to achieve the goal in completing assigned assignments, as well as actively engaging in various activities as preparation to become an excellent teacher in future. Lastly, burnout is a syndrome where individuals respond to chronic work stress that develops progressively and can become chronic, resulting in health problems. From Montero 2016. In this research, burnout is referred to overwhelming exhaustion, feeling of cynicism, and detachment from the job and a sense of ineffectiveness and lack of accomplishment. Now, let's move to Chapter 2, The first context is about learning motivation. According to Lin and others in 2020, learning motivation refers to a student's confidence, interest, and tendency in complete a task to achieve a certain goal and includes the three aspects, which is value, ability, and interest. The second context is about burnout. Burnout in learning can be defined as a kind of negative emotion caused by long-term learning pressure and workload of students that lead to their loss of interest in learning activities. From Rubin Majad and Diana 2020. In sum, we can conclude that learning motivation is something that cannot be separate from the learning process, while burnout will occur among students if the stress in academic exceeds the level of students' ability to manage it. Now, let's turn to theory of this study. The first theory is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The hierarchy of needs, as defined by Maslow in 1943 and 1970, remains the most visible and widely discussed theories of basic human needs, both in and out of psychology, from Gamba and Chiachi 2003. Five categories of human needs dictate an individual's behavior that state in Maslow's hierarchy of needs are psychological needs, safety needs, love and belonging needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization needs. The second theory is Maslow's burnout theory. Maslow's burnout theory stated burnout is an individual's stress experience embedded in a context of complex social relationships, and it involves the person's conception of both self and others. There are three core components in burnout, which is emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and reduced personal accomplishment from Masca 1993. Now, let's move to the finding of past study. On 2022, Haprativi and Ahmad had carried out a research with the title Learning Interest and Discipline on Learning Motivation. The finding of this research is interest in learning and discipline significantly influence learning motivation. Therefore, student learning motivation can be increased by high effort and attention in increasing and developing student interest and discipline. The second part study of motivation is the research with the title Students' Perception and Motivation Towards Online Learning at English Language Education in Pekanbaru. This research had carried out by Farida and Andy 2022. The findings for this research are students have a positive perception on online learning. However, students interact with teachers and other students is still limited, but students have high motivation towards online learning. Next, let's move to the past study about burnout. In 2022, Wei Chang, Xingyun, and Yang had carried out a research with the title Social Support and Academic Burnout Among University Students, a moderated mediation model. The finding of the research shows that social support has negatively associated with academic burnout. Life satisfaction had a partial mediating influence on the relationship between social support and academic burnout, which modulated by socio-economic status. The last past study for burnout is the research with the title Epidemiology of Burnout and its association with academic performance among medical students at Hal University, Saudi Arabia. The result shows that 79.4%, 61%, and 37.6% of respondents, respectively, reported high emotional wellness, cynicism, and professional efficiency. The overall prevalence of high burnout was 27.1%. Based on the past study that I had read, it shows that learning motivation is significant to learning process and burnout issues occur among higher education students and should be given attention. The next point is conceptual framework. The first box from left is demography about respondent. In this research, the respondents are from PPI-SMP and PI-SMP science option. The demography does not affect the finding of this research directly. Therefore, the error from demography is dotted. The second box is learning motivation, which is the independent variables for this research. In this study, learning motivation is referred to teachers' training effort, attitudes, and inner desire to achieve the goal in completing assignments, as well as actively engaging in various activities as preparation to become an excellent teachers in future. The third box is dependent variable, which is burnout. In this research, burnout will be measured from three dimensions, which is overwhelming exhaustion, feelings of cynicism, and detachment for the job, and a sense of ineffectiveness and lack of accomplishment. Now, let's move to the last chapter, which is chapter 3, methodology. The design for this research is quantitative survey study. Survey study can be defined as the collection for information from a sample of individuals through their responses to questions. Quantitative means that we use numbers in this research. The instrument for this research is in questionnaire form. There are three sections in this questionnaire. The first section is Demography of Respondent. The second section is about learning motivation, and the third section is about burnout. Data obtained from the questionnaire were analyzed in technicality using quantitative descriptive, and the inferential will be summarized using quantitative inferential. For the sampling and population, the first thing is choose the population. In this study, the population chosen is from 2 PPI-SMP to 6 PPI-SMP option size with the total 114, means that the sample size is 114. Next, based on Craigie and Morgan sample size determination table to 1970, the population size is 97. 15% of sampling is added to 97, which means the population size will become 109. The purpose we add 15% for population size is to ensure outliers and invalid data will not affect the finding for our research. Lastly, since the study is limited to science option teacher training only, random sampling method was used when collecting data. Random sampling can ensure that results obtained from the sample should approximate what would have been obtained if the entire population had been measured. Besides, validity is measured from two perspectives, which is face validity and content validity. To test the validity, I will meet with three experts to confirm the instrument and the modification and improvements are made based on the comment from experts. Moreover, reliability of this instrument was measured using Cobras alpha. Item with reliability coefficient value greater than 0.6 is accepted. In addition, split half reliability methods were also used to test the reliability for the instrument. On the other hand, for the pilot test of this study, it will be conducted on 30 teacher trainees who are taking science option of education program from IPG Kampus Pulau Pinang. The total of 30 respondents was selected according to the recommendation of Ghazali and Sufyan 2018. Now, let's move to data collection procedure. Data collection is a systematic process to gathering and measure information on variables of interest in an established systematic fashion that enables one to answer stated research questions, test hypotheses, and evaluate outcomes. The first step of this process in this research is build a shotgun. This step is important to ensure that the study was conducted according to the planning. The second step is distribute questionnaires and 1 week is given for respondents to answer questionnaire. After 1 week, the process to collect data from the respondents who cooperate voluntarily were done, and the last step is to process the raw data. Now, let's move to the last point, which is data analysis procedure. For the first and second research question, the instrument used is questionnaire, and the data analysis methods is frequency, percentage, mean, and standard deviation. For the third research question, the same questionnaire will be used, but it will be measured by using Pearson correlation test to determine is there any relationship between level of learning motivation and level of burnout among students in IPG Kampus Pendidikan TEKNIK. That's all from me. Thank you for lending me your ears for whole presentation.